at Melbourne Zoo. I do have over 10 years of teaching experience. I was a primary school teacher before I came over to the zoo, and my original degree was in conservation genetics, so I've kind of meshed my two things together. And so here at Melbourne Zoo, I actually lead the early years programs as well as some of the middle years programs and STEM. And so this is sort of where this design and technologies, I guess, brainchild appeared. It's very new space for the zoo. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. And what I'm going to be talking about today is directly related to the resources that I've designed for DataVic. The PD that's going to be happening in June is going to be a little bit different, but there'll be a little bit of crossover though. Yeah. But so Melbourne Zoo is part of Zoos Victoria. We're a world-leading conservation organisation, constantly looking at how we can, make the world better for wildlife. But in Australia, and especially in Victoria, many of our threatened species, they're small, they're elusive, really hard to find, and it takes a huge amount of manpower and resources to not only locate them, but to monitor them, which is an important part of wildlife conservation. And in recent years, technology has started to play a really, really important role in helping wildlife conservation scientists to do this, so to locate and monitor them and all that sort of things, all that sort of stuff. But one of the biggest problems is that most of the technology that's being used, it's not been designed for that purpose. So we're sort of retrofitting technology to try and fit it in with what we need it for. So I have to show you a cute thing first. Is that all right? Is this one hidden? Oh well, this is a little video, and I have to show you this. So this is probably considered one of the bigger of our Australian species, apart from the kangaroo, I guess. So he's going to poke his head up here. You can see this lovely little echidna there who's just poked his head out. And I guess imagining you're walking through the bush, you're trying to find an echidna. It's pretty hard to spot, right? And like I said, he's probably considered one of our bigger animals. Australia actually doesn't have a lot of big species. So you can imagine how hard it would be to find one of these wonderful little creatures here. So Zoos Victoria, we have what we call 27 fighting extinction species. And so these are the ones that, as an organisation, we've committed to not letting go extinct. Most of them are found only in Victoria, and most of them are critically endangered as well. And as you can see, the bulk of them are small, really hard to find. Many of them hibernate, or they find shelter in burrows, and many of them are nocturnal. And so this just inherently gives us so many issues when we're trying to find them and monitor them and track where they're going. So what do we actually use, to help us find these animals and track them and locate them and all that sort of stuff? I'm going to go through some images of the types of technology we use, touch on a little bit some of the benefits and limitations of them, and then talk to you about how this relates to students as well. So radio collars are a big thing. We've used these with a lot of animals for a really long time, and they haven't changed much. So they still use VHF, which is just your general radio signals. Some have a GPS component in them, but that picture in the middle there is from a leadbeater possum, which is a tiny, tiny little possum. I think it weighs the same as about 2 AA batteries. And so there's no GPS capabilities in that radio collar there just because of the size. And so to find these radio collars, you can see I've got one of my scientists here at the zoo, Arabella. She actually has to hold up, this antenna. She's got a big monitor with her as well, and then it beeps. And then as you get closer and closer to the animal, the beeping gets more frequent. And so you need to be kind of 150 to 200 meters away from the animal to be able to pick it up. And so you can see why that is really, really hard for scientists, or it takes a lot of manpower to be able to do that. And then not only that, when you go into the environment, so things like really dense forests and all that sort of thing can actually hamper the signal. So a really useful tool in being able to find animals and all that sort of thing. But like, yeah, you've heard some of the limitations with that. And then one of the other things as well is that we actually have to catch the animal to put it onto them, which is not something that we actually enjoy doing. um, Again, radio trackers. So these tend to be ones that we use with smaller species. There was a huge design process that went through designing the harness. So there's the ruler there with the harness in that image. There was a huge design process that went through designing that harness for the plains wanderer, which is the bird just below it, because ethically, and this is a sort of a nationwide ethics thing, we actually can't put anything on an animal that's more than 3% of its body weight. So if you've got a bird that only weighs, the same as two AA batteries, you can imagine 3% of that is not very much at all. So the harness itself also has to weigh almost nothing. The orange-bellied parrot, which is the bird it's on my left, with the on the pink pillow thing. That parrot only weighs 45 grams. It's one of the only migratory parrots in the world as well. So it actually migrates from Victoria to Tasmania, which is 700 kilometers, which is an amazing amount of distance for such a small bird. But for that bird, we need a tracker that has to weigh, less than 3% of 45 grams, has good battery life, solar or energy powered, GPS capabilities, tracking capabilities, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of constraints when it comes to being able to fit all of that into these tiny little packets. And as of yet, that still hasn't been done. So our amazing students out there, I bet you one of them could come up with a solution. I'm gonna show you a little video. So this is Dion. This is, you'll be able to tell during COVID times, but he's going to show you another one of trackers in the field. Yeah. So I always think it's amazing that you can put a radio tracker on a frog. Now, the reason we have to put it down where it is at the moment is because they can actually like get it off otherwise. um, and so that receiver's picking one up that's underneath there. But you can see the type of terrain that our scientists also need to work in. So because it is, natural forest that is, most of it is in national parks, it hasn't been disturbed so much. You can see the types of environment that our scientists have to work in. But again, very, very heavy on manpower, being able to find those frogs. We do use sniffer dogs to find some of our animals as well. But again, it takes years and years of training to be able to do that. So I guess, what sort of things can students come up with to be able to enable us to find species like this a little bit easier? Thermal imaging cameras. So let us see in the dark. I guess really useful. I'll show you a cool video in a second of some leadbeater's possums. They pick up the heat signatures. But again, if it's really warm, like in summertime, or if you're in a boulder field where like our plains wanderers live and our mountain pygmy possums live, the rocks give off as much heat as the animals. So you actually can't pick up the animals in those areas. But I'll play this video. I think it's about a minute, but see how many possums you can count coming out of the box. It's pretty amazing how many come out. So these guys are found in East Victoria, out near Healesville. Nicknamed the fairy possums because they move so quickly. Strictly nocturnal. But critically endangered, these ones are as well. And they eat insects that fly around at night time. They also eat nectar. So they are a pollinator too. Australia's got one of the highest percentages of mammal pollinators in the world. Uh, how many did you get? You should have gotten 6. I don't know if you got 6. You got 5? They're very cute. And there's another video of them that's up there in the corner. But so camera traps, obviously something we use. Song meters is another one. So song meters obviously picking up sounds. One of the biggest issues we have with these is they're often either sound activated or motion activated. So then you have all of the sound and all of the images that you then have to go through once you go out and collect the SD cards out of them. And, camera traps, inherently they get stolen. They pick up wind or leaves moving. And then some of our animals can sound surprisingly similar to other things. So the plains wanderer, which is one of the birds that we use these song meters with, they sound surprisingly similar to planes that fly overhead. So how do we distinguish those sounds? AI is an obvious one, but AI is not perfect. So then you still need to go through all of that data. And then lastly, of course, we've got drones. Now we use drones for a huge number of things. Something we do with drones at the moment, we've got that big beast of a drone that you can see that's actually a food drop drone. So after the recent fires in the Grampians, we used this drone to drop food to the southern rock wallabies out in the Grampians, to kind of just supplement because they didn't have anything left because it was all burnt away. And we did that as well in 2019 after the bushfires in 2019. So more of a way to supplement feeding after there's been some sort of a disaster. We obviously will use drones to help us with cameras, taking photos, aerial photographs, thermal imaging and all of that sort of thing. But, at the moment, drones aren't perfect. They firstly have to be driven by someone. Very limited in where you can fly them, and also dependent on weather. So if it's too windy or whatever, often you can't fly a lot of drones. They're doing a lot of trials at the moment as well in using drones to help track animals wearing radio collars. So trying to kind of mixing up the different technologies. But after all of that, this is sort of the program that I've designed to do with students. Okay, so how it goes is I introduce the students to the idea of endangered species in Australia, because I'm sure most of them know about a lot of the big ones overseas. Okay, you've got your tigers and all that sort of thing, and maybe some of the ones here in Australia as well. But a lot of the ones we have here in Australia, like those, fighting extinction 27 species, they're really, really small, but they're still really, really important in our environment. A lot of them are, important in just like our leadbeater's possums in pollinating and all that sort of thing. So even though they're small, they still have a huge impact on our environment. So yes, introducing students to the idea of endangered species in Australia, what they look like, who they are, what do we need to know about them to understand, and understand about them to be able to study them. So this is where we can link in mostly with science curriculum, but we go habitats, adaptations, life cycles, threats, all of those sorts of things, evolution as well, if you're more 910s. Then we start to investigate with students, well, what types of technologies already exist? What do we already use with them? So what I've just gone through with all of you. Then, well, what are the benefits? What are the limitations? And then how can you, as someone who is a young person that knows way more about technology than me, who is an older person, can you design something better? Can you improve on something? What sort of amazing ideas can you come up with? Can you, go through that design process and prototype? And these are the resources that have just gone up onto the DataVic website. I think it went live yesterday. And so Lynn's put the link in the chat there. They're all free for you to use. There's resources from 3.4 all the way up to 9.10. So, you can go in and you can have a look at them. They do look a little bit like this, okay? But it's basically mixing a love of animals and a love of technology and trying to improve efforts in wildlife conservation. It's real world. These are things that our scientists have to try and problem solve on a daily basis. And I don't think Australian students and Victorian students especially know enough about it. So as well as all of the teaching guides, you can book into a program and come on site and I can run you through, well, one of the education team can run you through this. You would need to book in for our STEM program, but when you book in, let us know your design tech and we'll know what to do. But the design tech program is coming next year. But if you're really super keen to get going on this, you can just book in for the STEM program, and it's very similar. We would just change the language to suit design and tech. Yes, so we're currently putting together the design tech offering. Hopefully that'll come out next year on the Zoos Vic website. It's on the DataVic website though, so you can access all of that stuff there. Like I said, teaching guide, and there's some workbooks as well for students. They went live yesterday on the DataVic website. The 3.4 guide is a little bit different. It's actually around animal enrichment at the zoo. And there's also a 5.6 version of this as well. But the 7 to 10 ones are all around technology and wildlife conservation. And there's a 5.6 version of that too. We also have a lot of other free resources, and many teachers do not know about any of these things. So I'm going to spruik them a little bit. So, we've got animal toolkits. So if there's animals that you're wanting to know more about, we have a PowerPoint that is editable that you can download, and it has all the information about them. So if you search Zoos Victoria Animal Toolkits, that'll come up. We have an amazing Vimeo channel where if you just search Zoos Victoria Vimeo, we have got videos about all sorts of things. Everything from, conservation technology to animal adaptations to I just want to see a cute video of otters, like whatever you want, it's probably on there. But it's incredible the amount of stuff we've got on there. And then probably the most exciting thing, this is the first time we're doing this. Hopefully it goes well. We'll see how it goes. But June 20th, we have the design and technology doing the design process at the zoo. So like I said, it'll be a bit different to what I've just run through, because that one's more specifically for the teaching guides that have just launched yesterday. But it should be pretty exciting. So looking at how you can use the zoo, to help design tech students find problems that they can then, go through that design thinking process and solve using that double diamond process as well. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to go for the full hour, but I'm more than happy to take questions if you have any questions. I know I've just thrown a lot of information at you, but yes, if you're wanting questions about what I've just spoken about, or even about how you might book in here at the zoo, then I'm more than happy to answer those for you, because I've got till 5 o'clock, so I've still got another half an hour.
I have a question.
Yep.
This is just my own curiosity. With the creating the technology that it has to be like 3% of the body weight.
Yeah.
How do they come up with that like percentage? Is it
Yeah, it's got to do with, so everything that we do goes through animal ethics. And I guess if you're in VCE as well, this can link in with bioethical approaches and bioethics. But everything we do goes through ethics, and it's based off of whether or not it's going to impact animal movements, animal behavior, the way in which the animal lives, basically, and all that sort of stuff. And I think 3% was the number that they came up with, that it has the minimal amount of impact on the animal itself. That's what I believe. And it potentially could be a little bit different for other bigger species, because obviously they're going to be somewhat different. But for most of the little ones that we're looking at, it's around 3% of the body weight. Rhiannon, you said you make possum and bird boxes at school and you want to donate them in the future. Do I have anyone? Healesville is the one that does all the Healesville does possum boxes and things like that. I'm wondering, do you have a habitat where you can actually put them up? That would be my question back to you. Is there somewhere, have you got a national park or a forest or something near you where you might be able to install these nest boxes for wildlife? Yeah. A lot of feral animals, okay. Like cats and foxes? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you would have to do feral animal control as well along with that. Ooh, I might have to get back to you on that and talk to you a bit more about that one, Rhiannon. That might be a larger thing to talk about. Yeah, you can. What you could do potentially is approach some of your friends of groups. I don't know where you are, but for example, there's like friends of the helmeted honeyeaters. So you can approach groups like that, and they potentially could take donations because they'll have spaces where they'll install those sorts of things, or like land care groups and things like that. So that could be your first port of call. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to share my details. I'll write my email in here, and you can flick me an email.
Rhiannon's all the way in Korumburra. Korumburra.
Korumburra. I feel like I know where that is.
I just had to Google it.
Without the backslash, sorry. I just
typo.
Yeah, there's a typo in there, so don't put the slash in there. But that's me. Is it Tembe? I hope I said that right.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, after the giraffe that died in 2018 at Werribee.
Ah, okay.
So cute.
Although, no, not I've got the same name. I was obviously born
name.
well beforehand. I had the name first, actually. Thanks, Francesca. That was really interesting. I was just wondering whether there's anywhere with a, you said, oh, it'd be really good if students could find a harness or something lighter to track animals. Have you got a whole list of things that the zoo would be interested in? Because I think sometimes teachers find it hard to come up with an idea.
Yep.
So what are some design briefs that teachers could use and say, maybe we could look at this?
So the teaching guide that is on the website now, it does give a bunch of resources to get students to create their own design brief, so come up with their own ones. I don't actually have a list of tech that students might be interested in designing for, but you know what? I think I could actually start creating one and then adding that to the resources.
That would be great.
It's the thing about tech, right? And the thing about tech everywhere, it's ever changing. Yeah. But of course, I think that's a really good idea, though, is that if I create a list of things, of ideas that students could pick up if they're not sure.
And even not the tech, just the needs of the conservationists. So, like we want to find out this, and it might not involve tech, it could just be science or something else, but usually tech gets involved somewhere.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. I think so this is sort of the first iteration of these resources, but I think what I will be doing for next year when it gets released wider in the zoo is, rather than focusing solely on tech, is actually getting students to think about designing something that can either protect or improve habitat, reduce threats to species, or be tech. So they actually have the 3 different options to go with, because I know that not everyone is going to want to do tech, but that's going to be in sort of like version whatever a little bit later on. But I guess you can keep that in your head.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think the thinking that's involved is really how are we improving or improving the life of these animals, or how are we making their habitat safer or better, or that sort of stuff. So the focus shouldn't be on the tech, it should be on the preferred futures aspect, and the tech just comes in there as a way that we might be able to support that.
Yeah, and I've had very similar thinking to you, Tembi. Yeah, so I would like to sort of just do slight edits to it where it is including habitat and threats and things like that, and how we can use our design thinking to maybe minimize those or improve on those things. Or yeah, definitely.
I live just next to the Melbourne Zoo in Brunswick West, and I found an echidna in my garden.
Oh wow!
In January.
Okay.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty amazing. Well, I wonder whether it had escaped from the zoo or whether it came down the creek.
Must have come down the creek.
Many Ponds Creek.
Yeah.
It's quite big.
Yeah, they do get quite big. That's why it always amazes me that you can be walking along and never see them. Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, because like obviously in the Dandenong Ranges, there's like heaps of forest and areas and stuff, but we saw one like poor echidna with mange. Is it mange? Yeah, it was so sad. I was like, oh no. It was like on the road as well, so it was a bit upsetting.
Probably wasn't doing too well.
No, it's like I just want to die. I was gonna say, hopefully there's kids or teachers that once they become more aware of all the amazing resources that are available to them from the zoo, especially in the design tech area, like looking at, because in the design process they have to look at a big problem prior to even like honing into a smaller problem. So conservation is like such a good one to look at as a whole, and then get them to like hone in on which ones they want to do, which animals they might want to look at, or fix up those spaces. Rhiannon, sorry,
I was just going to say, do you do citizen science as well with schools?
We
sort of related.
We don't specifically do citizen science projects, but we do recommend citizen science projects as part of an action that schools can take. We often, we do link in with many citizen science projects, or try and link schools in with citizen science projects for sure. But we don't. The only citizen science project we have at the zoo is called Moth Tracker. I don't know if you've heard of that one. So it's tracking the bogong moths, and if you see one, you upload it onto the app. It went crazy this year, apparently.
How good!
But that's our only citizen science specific project. But obviously, there's so many others out there. Yeah.
There's a question.
Rhiannon.
See that? Sorry. Yeah.
There is a grant called the Access for All. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but so that has already passed for this year, but it would be something that you could look into for next year. So that is for schools in sort of low socioeconomic areas. It's called Access for All. I don't know when it's going to come out again, but that could potentially be one that you could look into applying for. If you're in a school that is a tight budget. Do I have a link? I'll have to see if I can find one. Again, if you send me an email, I can, and put it in that email, I can find out for you and send that information to you. Yeah. On the news because of mushrooms. Maybe that's where we've all heard it from, right? But I guess if you do look at any of the resources or use any of the resources, I would love some feedback on them, because like I said, this is a really new space for Zoos Vic, and this is our first attempt at it. So yeah, I'd love to hear any thoughts that you have on them if you do have a look through them or use them with students. That would be amazing. But yes, if you have any more questions, please ask. Otherwise, hopefully they're of use to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So many needs and opportunities that can be solved. Like even just that video, like that as a starting point, like what your presentation. I'm like, oh my God, bing, 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 bing. There's so many things, you know, that they can look at. So it's,
Yes.
and also like the ethics side of stuff with the new Victorian 2.0, like it's very much embedded in the design tech curriculum at
Yeah, and
junior and
ethics.
senior levels. Yeah.
Yeah,
So coming in
ethics.
everywhere.
Ethics is something we deal with on a daily basis, like
Yeah.
with everything that we do. So with, anything that you engage in here at the zoo, we'll probably inherently talk about ethics.
Mm,
Even on
good.
property, ethics is massive. So
Amazing.
yeah, I know that that's a really strong through line throughout all of design tech, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice way of embedding ethics in the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as its own capability too. And I love how, and we were speaking to Michael about this before, that kids don't always think about designing for non-human end users. So
Yeah.
it's such a nice way of teachers being able to look at that. So
If anything, I actually think
yeah.
it's I actually think it's almost easier for kids to choose a non-human end user because you're
Oh,
basically becoming the voice for that animal, right?
it's so
Like
lovely.
we can't talk we can't, like, well, they can't talk to us and they can't
Mm,
tell us what they need, or they don't have a voice, so we're basically the
yeah.
voice for those species, and those students can become the voice for whatever species it is that they're looking at.
Oh, it's so
um
lovely.
so it's just like that nice little link.
That ball frog's like, get this thing off my ass, please. This antenna, what's this doing here?
Yeah,
Oh, that was really cute. They are like little mud, like
little walking mud
blocks, aren't they?
balls. Yeah.
Probably shouldn't say that word. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, did anyone else have any cues for Fran? And well, her email's there. I might put your email as well on the email that we send out to everyone who couldn't make it today.
Without the typo.
You might get a flurry, yeah. But yeah, if not, we can totally end early if that's
And a bit early.
okay.
Early pass.
Early pass. Bell
Yeah.
hasn't gone yet, sorry. Thank you for all your hard work. There's so much stuff in there, so many hours of just figuring stuff out as well, and like having to look at curriculums and change the language and everything. So we're really, really, really appreciative of all your work, and also for having you come talk to us today. It was super informative, and I really hope more people start thinking about the zoo as a place that they can, help and solve some problems.
Come and do design and technologies.
Yeah.
Plus see some cute
Thanks.
animals.
I'll
Sorry.
definitely put this up on my course with all my pre-service teachers. So hopefully, they'll learn about it and contact you soon.
Great.
Because you're from RMIT, is that correct? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in the School of Education, so I teach into the masters and the undergraduate programs.
Lovely.
So soon to be teachers. So this is really good.
We should chat some more, Tammy, because we actually have started bringing some pre-service teachers in to do some of their hours here.
Ooh.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
So we should chat a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're doing
fun.
that with Melbourne Uni at the moment.
Interested.
But yeah,
but
definitely be interested in doing more. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I'm going to stop the recording.